Good morning, Journey Church. I am so excited to be with you all here this morning, and I would just encourage you guys to type a message in the chat and to join us here for some worship this morning.
There is a river where goodness flows. There is a fountain that drowns sorrow. There is an ocean deeper than fear. The tide is rising. There is a current stirring deep inside. It's overflowing from the heart of God. The flood of heaven crashing over us. The tide is rising, rising, bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now, bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. We come alive in the river. 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 There is a current stirring deep inside. It's overflowing from the heart of God. The flood of heaven crashing over us. The tide is rising, rising, bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now, bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. We come alive in the river. 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 Break open prison doors. Set all the captives free. Spring up a well. Spring up a well. Spring up a well in me. Nothing can stop this joy. We're dancing in the streets. Spring up a well. Spring up a well. Spring up a well in me. Yeah. We come alive in the river. 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 We come alive in the river.
The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. Oh, my God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, yeah. There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. In every war he wages, he will win. Oh, I'm not backing down from any giant. Yeah, 'cause I know how this story ends. Yes, I know how this story ends. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. 'Cause I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. 'Cause I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turned it for good. Yeah, you turned it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turned it for good. Yeah, you turned it for good. Oh, you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turned it for good. Yeah, you turned it for good. Oh, you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. Yeah, you turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. Yeah, you turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. Yeah, you turn it for good. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. 'Cause I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. Yeah. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. 'Cause Let nothing stand in the way of your will for me. Let nothing come to distract from your liberties. You came to give new life, so new life it will be. Let nothing stand in the way of your will for me. Let nothing come to distract from your liberties. You came to give new life, so new life it will be. And I receive your mercy that's freely given. I can see your spirit is here and moving, and I believe in your promises as they are spoken. I can see your spirit is here and moving. Nothing can in the way of your will for me. Let nothing come to distract from your liberties. You came to give new life, so new life it will be. Oh, let nothing stand in the way of your will for me. Let nothing come to distract from your liberties. You came to give new life, so new life it will be. Oh, and I receive, yeah, and I receive your mercy that's freely given, and I can see your spirit is here and moving, and I believe in your promises as they are spoken, and I can see your spirit is here and moving, and I receive your mercy that's freely given, and I can see your spirit is here and moving, and I believe in your promises as they are spoken, and I can see your spirit is here and moving. Oh, it's here and moving. Yeah. Oh, you've given me life, you've given me joy, you've given me peace, you've given me hope. In Jesus' name I stand free. In Jesus' name I find liberty. A great price was paid for me. No more lies from the enemy. Yeah. In Jesus' name I stand free. Whoa. Jesus' name I find liberty. A great price was paid for me. No more lies from the enemy. Yeah. Oh. and I receive your mercy that's freely given. I can see your spirit is here and moving, and I believe in your promises as they are spoken. I can see your spirit is here and moving. Come and move, oh Lord. Come and move in my heart. Come and move in my soul.
I hope you guys had an awesome chance to connect with the Lord in some way in worship. And right now, I just also want to tell you guys about some of the other amazing things that we have going on here at Journey Church. And one of those is that you guys have been hearing about it for the past few weeks, but that is our partnership with the Calgary Pregnancy Care Center and the Baby Bottle campaign. And so normally, you'd send a baby bottle home and put some change in there and take it back at Father's Day. But this year, since that's a little bit more challenging, there is a link there to donate, and we're just really excited about this organization, one of our kingdom partners, and just really looking forward to seeing how we can connect and invest in this ministry, doing amazing things in our city. The next thing is on Father's Day, we are having a food truck and a car show after the service, and so you guys will not want to miss that. It's going to be a really fun time, just celebrating our fathers, and yeah, just an awesome time to come together and celebrate the dads in our life. So that's going to be a really fun time, and I would encourage you to get out there and get a nice food truck snack after the service. And right now, I just want to move into a time of giving, and giving once again. We're just so thankful for each of you who have been faithfully giving, and just really want to encourage you today as well that is a step of faith to partner with God's kingdom, to partner with the work that He is doing all around in our church and in our city and across the world, and in just a special way. And so that is a step of faith, and I realize that right now particularly it is a step of faith. But when you give, you are partnering with a greater work that is happening in this city. And so thank you so much for giving. There's a few ways to do that with a few of the links that are popping up there on the screen. And now we can get into the message. Thanks, guys.
Good morning, church. And as you know, today is Grad Sunday. So as a church, we just want to say congratulations to all the graduates who completed their high school and even bachelor's or even grad school. This is a huge milestone, especially in the middle of pandemic with online school transitions and back and forth. So you are going to be doing amazing things in life because you finished the race, and so you did well. So one of the things, particularly the fact that you finished in a time like this, I want to encourage you. And today what we're going to talk about is there's a leader in every chair. When I think of milestones and every stage of our life, it really requires us to think about how we're going to lead ourselves, how we're going to lead our lives moving forward. And sometimes we actually think that, oh, if we only could get a sneak peek into the 5-year plan of our lives, just so we can see, are we making the right choices? Are we going to go to the right school? Are we going to get the right job? Are we going to find the right spouse? There's so many factors in our lives that contribute. But one of the principles I think is really important is leadership. Self-leadership, leadership of others, how we serve, all those things contribute to our lives. And sometimes when I say leader, you automatically think, well, I'm not a CEO, I'm not leading anything, I am not a leader. But I am here to tell you that leadership is for everybody. So maybe if I mention a couple of options, you'll think and find yourself in these categories. So the one who influences others is a leader. The one who makes a difference in others is a leader. As long as people follow the rules of leadership, they are leaders. Everyone can be a leader, and there is a leader in every chair. When you make daily decisions for yourself, you are leading yourself. When you're making decisions for your family, as a mom or a dad taking care of your kids, that is leadership. You're making decisions about your team, how to manage that, how you serve and volunteer, that is leadership. And so sometimes we think that this is not a big component, but today the reason why it's important is because we are reaching this milestone. So moving forward, how are we going to lead our lives? And I know for a fact that leadership is something that we first see in the home. I can tell you from my experience that leadership is a really big part of my culture, how you lead and how you serve, especially in our household. So growing up, I would always see my parents serving fervently on Sundays, and they would be doing Bible studies, running and being on the board, or even just being elders and serving in different capacities. I never understood the value of that. I'd say, Dad, you would have to sit on those calls for like 5 hours. Like, you don't have 5 hours. Like, to me, it just seems so extensive. And mind you, that's maybe very extensive. But I want to say that actually showed me what leadership looked like. It showed me what it looks like to be faithful even when things are hard. And so I can tell you on my journey, I found that I knew that I was not qualified to lead, but God truly made a way. Let me share with you a quick story about who I used to be. I was always the oldest kid in church, and we were in a very small church. And so the people turned around and said, hey, you are older than the rest of the kids. Do you want teaching Sunday school? That was my introduction to leadership. But further along the line, when I began to really doubt my faith and having my own experiences, I remember my pastor came up to me and he said, I think you should come and teach Sunday school. And I hadn't been coming to church for a couple of years, or it just been a little while. And I remember particularly telling him, I am not the person you want me to teach these Sunday school kids. They're like 13, 14-year-olds. And at the time I was 19 and I had just gone through some traumatic things. And I thought, I was done with God. So he told me, I want you to come and teach these kids. I remember being like, okay. He said, we really don't have anybody. And usually this is how they get you. We don't have anybody. I thought about it and I said, well, I have nothing to lose. I'm kind of here already. And I remember having to prepare for a message. I had never preached in my life. I was really running from the call that God had on my life. And I remember literally in that moment thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say. So I remember Googling forgiveness, Bible verses about forgiveness. And I remember that Sunday, the kids, I had no idea how even youth group was supposed to work. And I sat down, I said, today we're going to talk about forgiveness. And so they all brought their notebooks and their pens and they're ready to write. And I said, what do you guys think that means? And they kind of looked at me. I thought you're going to teach us. And I said, no, we're going to have a conversation. This is something we're going to have. And so this is actually was a way that God used to actually save me from myself. I was in a period of my life where I was, self-sabotaging and toxicity and just living in a lifestyle that really was just causing me to not actually live a life that is fruitful. And I remember that leading in this church, serving in this church saved me from me. And I know that the church showed me Jesus through the way that they trusted me, even when I didn't deserve that. And I want to say that we must be people that pull others alongside us and give them room to grow and room to be planted. This is where we know that leadership means we take risks and we share. I think of Timothy, the recipient of 2 New Testament letters bearing his name, the son of a Greek father and a Jewish mother. He joined Paul on Paul's later missionary journeys. And scholars say when he began to join Paul, he had already been around the age of being a teenager or early 20s. And what distinguished him was that he was a faithful servant, and he's an elder that even the elders noticed him. And so Paul writes to Timothy, and then before I read the passage, I want to give you some context that we are about to read the passage where Paul is addressing the false doctrine of the teaching of how people were departing from their faith and they were embracing the doctrines that justified their sin. He continues to give Timothy personal advice, and he says this to him: prescribe and teach these things. Let no one look down on your usefulness, but rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, show yourself an example of those who believe. Until I come, I give your attention to the public reading, to exhortation, to teaching. I love that in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, Paul is telling Timothy, hey, you might be insecure right now. You don't know what it looks like to lead. You don't know what it looks like to serve right now, but I'm telling you, just be faithful, but do things faithfully. And I love that because Timothy was young, we know that he was vulnerable to the errors of youth, which I can say for my own self as well, learning that as I was a young leader and leading a congregation, not necessarily having the skills to do it, that God really, truly is faithful. And oftentimes, Timothy was, there was some justified criticism that people can put towards him. And to address this, Paul calls him higher, and he calls him to live a life that is godly. He calls him that, he wanted him to live a life that no one could despise his youth. So my first action or encouragement for you today is to not let your age hinder you. This may be for the young people, but I'm also speaking to the people who are retired recently, or people who are just going through a series of their life where they're not feeling as fulfilled. Leadership is one of the ways that we can still be zealous for the Lord, where we can serve our church in a capacity that is with passion and with so much hope, because we know that we have something to offer. Your story and what you've gone through is worth sharing with someone else. And we know that sometimes, when we have young people leading, we know that they can dismiss the advice of their parents or elders in the church, but we know that this is opportunity that God can use them. And God used someone like my pastor in a time where I did not want anything to do with God to really pull me back into community, to pull me back in, and to give me an opportunity to lead even when I was not qualified to lead. God doesn't always call the qualified and the well-prepared. He calls the most unlikely people. So let's look around us and see who can we pour into and who can we uplift and encourage. So whether you're retired or a teenager, you are a leader. The second thing is that I want to say that some seeds are slow to bear fruit. Trust the process because God does not waste anything. The fruit that we are wanting to see immediately is not things that are evolving the time frame that we want. And this is something that Paul saw with Timothy as him being a young pastor and very eager, that he was not perhaps the pastor that was ready to lead the church, but Paul is commending him, keep going. And even though he doesn't see the fruit immediately, continue to be faithful. So further down in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 11, he's really urging Timothy and encouraging him. And he's telling him, but flee from these things, you man of God, and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, perseverance, and gentleness. Fight the good fight of faith. Take a hold of the eternal life in which you are called, for which you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. Paul is on purposely using active and forceful verbs to describe this Christian run. He's saying run, pursue, fight, and hold tightly. I want to say this to our congregation, that some people think that Christianity is a passive religion that advocates for God to act, but we must also have active faith. We must also have active ability for us to continue our training and our growth in our relationship with Jesus. We have to work hard, and we must do the things that are right. Just like when we plant a seed, we don't see it. So when I say some seeds are slow to bear fruit, what I'm telling you is persevere and push through even if we don't see the fruit. In my office this summer, I got this yucca plant. Let me just share with you the story. I got this yucca plant and I was so excited. It was my first plant that I got that was just for myself. And I was going to take this whole plant mom thing very serious. And it was the minute I got into an office space here at Journey, I got a plant and I got it. Now, fast forward almost 2 years later, this plant is still in my office. Funny enough, actually about 3 months ago, I was really contemplating of throwing it out. I was actually so embarrassed that every time that people entered my office, they would see this dying plant and they would kind of not judge me, but I felt like they were judging me. And I remember people being like, your plant is struggling a little bit. And many of the staff members know how I do things in the office. I'm always switching things up, but that plant is still in that pot. And I remember a couple of months ago, I was really contemplating and looking, how can I upcycle and get rid of this plant? Because you know what? I've been trying to water it. I've been trying to take care of the soil. I've been doing all this work. I'm not seeing any fruit. And patience is a virtue. And for some of us, we need to be more patient in life. And so I remember that I came back into the office, and during this recent lockdown that we had, I remember coming in and I began to see actually some leaves sprouting through the ground of my pot. You wouldn't think that's a big deal, but trust me, 2 years of waiting to see and trying to revive a plant, you understand. What I'm trying to say is that just like I had to experience like pursuing this idea that I had to continue to take care of this plant and feed it. This is sometimes what it looks like to nurture our faith, to nurture our leadership, to nurture areas of our life that require work, because we don't see the fruits immediately. Doesn't mean that God isn't doing something underneath the surface where we are being challenged. God is doing something in us in the seasons where He's asking us to be faithful and to bear fruit. Lastly, I urge you to lead well in everything that you do. Church, we have an obligation and a privilege where we go in our work environments that we have to do what is to our best of our abilities. And this is what Paul is saying to Timothy in this letter. He's charging him and saying that, live a life that is faithful, that glorifies God, because it will be worth it. I love this quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he says this: "If a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep the streets so well that all hosts of heaven and earth will pause and say, 'Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well.'" What I'm saying is that we must live our lives where we are leading it well, where we are actually the outcome of just the good things, whether we are in our work environment, whether we are in our home environment, whether we are in the line at Costco, because we know how crazy it can be. But how are we leading ourselves, leading our thoughts, leading our emotions, leading our life, our spiritual disciplines? These are aspects that are all so important. And I want to say this, that we had the privilege here at Journey Church in the last year. I was able to start this pilot project where we called it Leadership Track. And we invited students, especially during quarantine. We said, hey, it's a great opportunity for you to grow. If you want to know what it looks like to be a leader, if you want to serve in a leadership capacity, we opened this up to grades 11 and 12 and recent graduates from high school. And we said, hey, let's come together every 2 weeks for a year and really just press in and really see, can we learn about leadership? And so this was an opportunity where we were able to talk about certain topics. So I'm going to share with you a couple of the topics and themes that we talked about. We talked about boundaries, we talked about leadership, we talked about time management, conflict resolution, communication styles, we talked about time management, we talked about what it looks like to lead a team, starting departments, working with others. They had to implement that. We talked about emotional intelligence. We also talked about public speaking. Not only did we talk about these things, but we really put them into practice. And they had an opportunity to do the hands-on learning on Friday nights. And it was really great to see how they grew. So I want you just to take a look at the screen, as we have several students who just want to share about their experience with this leadership track.
This year on the leadership track, we covered a variety of topics, both serious and hilarious ones. We discussed everything from conflict resolution to needing more recycling bins and less garbage cans. However, the topic I found to have the largest impact on my life has been the one of boundaries. As an extrovert, being social and in community with people in any way I can is what motivates and charges me. And as a 3 on the Enneagram, I fear failure. So both of these attributes combined into my personality make me someone who does everything in my power to help and be around individuals. Before this discussion of boundaries in the leadership track, I would always load onto myself way more than I should be able to. I had trouble saying no to people, as I have great FOMO and would always want to do my best to help. I often felt guilty saying no to things when people requested my presence. However, this topic has made me more aware that I am not entitled to be available at all times, and that it is okay to say no to things when I have prior commitments. Having people I can trust to hold me accountable has been really helpful. Before we discussed this in the leadership track, I thought boundaries had an entire different definition and did not apply to things such as overwhelming myself with tasks. Although I still often find myself saying yes and committing to too much, it is one of those things that I am more aware of and has had a great impact on my growth and maturity as an individual.
Hey guys, so my name is Abby Skinner and I was part of leadership track this past year. There's just a couple things I want to talk about. So first off, we had a little lecture portion of the program and I have a really hard time of saying no. So of course the week that we're doing the topic of boundaries, it really stuck out to me. We were talking about how understanding your team's boundaries and them understanding your boundaries is crucial for the end goal to be everything that you want it to be. I had never thought of it like that. I had always thought if I say yes to everything, if I load a million things on top of me, it only impacts me. But I had never thought that it won't result in the amazing thing that it could. So that was one thing that was shocking to me. I had never thought of that before. The second thing was, while we were doing in-person youth and stuff like that, we had little teams, and I was co-leading a team, and it was the set design kind of team. So we were trying to make Instagrammable spaces, if that's even a word. So we were trying to make that so that people can go take photos, go do a group little thing, right? And it was shocking to me how much we collaborated on stuff and how many ideas that we could bounce off of that we would have never done if there was just one person leading. And just seeing the benefits of co-leading and having a team behind you with a million ideas was amazing. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you guys.
My name is Alicia Brost, and I may not have been here for the full year. I wasn't even a part of leadership for part of the year, but within my few months of joining this track, I learned a lot more about responsibilities and the importance of communication when it comes to dealing with a team. I remember the first time I came to help and everybody was hands-on, and in that moment it helped me see that I wanted to be a leader and not just somebody on the sidelines. I reconciled with the importance of a community and how wonderful it is to have people on your side. And through thick and thin, these past few months have taught me that no idea is a bad one. And while I may not have been here for every single conversation, I know this much. Through all this, I gained a community of leaders who, without a doubt, always put their best foot forwards and understands how wonderful it means to be a family. And at the end of the day, no one's perfect. We all mess up, and that's okay because it gives us a learning curve we may never have experienced before.
The youth leadership track taught me skills that I can use now with family and friends, and I can take into the real world as I pursue a career and further my education. Learning skills like clear and concise communication can help me as I interact with people now and will help in a career setting where I interact with coworkers and clients. Learning how to set healthy boundaries with people served to teach me how to have healthy relationships while taking care of myself, which to me is an invaluable skill to have as I transition into the next phase of life. The leadership skills that I have been taught will allow me to step out as the next generation of passionate, faith-filled leaders. These leadership skills will also allow me to have the confidence to step out in the church community and set a Christian example to those around me, especially the younger generations.
I'm glad that, we had some students that were able to share their experience and what it looks like to learn. Let me tell you why I even wanted to do a leadership track. The reason being is that leadership is something that we need to teach in the church. This was able to actually translate into their real lives. I know that people tend to separate church and their real lives, but this is an opportunity for students to learn about themselves, their strengths, and their ability to pursue. And so they can actually lead well. We want to raise up leaders in this church. We want to raise up the next generation to be well equipped, not just for them to serve the church, but for them to be the best employees that they can be. They can be the best students as possible. We know there's so many factors that contribute to their life. And so whether they've seen leadership in their home or they have not, this was an opportunity for us to truly, truly build them up. And I want to just leave you with this quote by Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote this book called Outliers, and he says this: not rock stars, not professional athletes, not software billionaires, and not even geniuses ever make it alone. It takes a village for us to really, truly, to lead together, to lead well. And I really want to encourage that if you have a passion, not just for leadership, but just you have strengths, the church needs your skill sets. The church needs what you have to offer. And I think it's the greatest opportunity that we have to serve. And we believe that in order for us to build well, we need to build on the kingdom of God, on the biblical principles. And so we want to say that we do believe that there is potential in everyone to be a great leader. We believe that leadership can be taught and it can be exemplified. And we want to be a people who are doing this well. And so church, continue to encourage the next generation, continue to encourage each other. If you see it as an opportunity for you to serve and to lead, it is not asking you to do something that you're not good at. It's actually asking you to unleash the potential that is already within you, that Christ has placed in your heart. And so we just want to say thank you so much for continuing to support us as we try new things. And this is one of the things that we're so proud of, and we hope to do this next year. But I want to leave you with this thought that leadership is not just for the qualified. Everyone can lead.
That was an amazing time hearing from Gifty, and also just an incredible opportunity to really celebrate our grads in a year that's a little different, to do something, to celebrate this huge accomplishment for them. And right now, I just want to encourage you guys that in any way you guys need to connect right now. I would just encourage you to do that, whether it's prayer, whether it's emailing connect@myjourney.church. There's lots of ways to do it. So we are so thankful that you guys decided to come out today, and we will see you next week.